Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm an avid herpetologist and I've got another looking forward deck profile for you guys. We're going to be looking at my first looking forward deck for the BT11 format in the Digimon TCG. As usual, we're going to be going over a rogue deck that I am just happen to be very much looking forward to coming up in BT11, and that is going to be green Tyrannomon. Now Tyrannomon, for those of you who don't know, is actually an archetype that has existed since the very first set in the Digimon TCG. In fact, in the first two sets, BT1 and BT2, there actually existed a similar to Rookie Rush style deck called Tyrannomon Rush. Now in those first couple of sets, we really got Tyrannomon in two different flavors. We had red Tyrannomon and we had green Tyrannomon. Now, back in those days, red Tyrannomon was very much the way to go because we had a champion Tyrannomon that had jamming. We had a 1 evolution 6000 DP dark Tyrannomon, which for that time was very good stats for that particular level. And we were able to splash enough cards from the green package like Taiga and maybe a flower cannon or two. Plus, we would be able, at those times, we would be playing things like mega level puppet mons and things like that. It was a really cool deck. It was a very unique, very different deck that competed outside of the typical meta of blue and red Omnimon. And was able to snag a few wins here and there. It was a very aggressive deck for its time. Now, this deck actually leans more into the green side of things. Back in those days, the green Tyrannomon support was pretty lackluster. There wasn't a whole lot to build off of back then. But since that time, over a couple of different sets now, we've been getting little bits of support here and there. So as of BT11, we're actually getting a whole new wave of green Tyrannomon support that is going to make the deck at least able to be playable in the current meta. Now, is this going to be a top tier deck? Not by a long shot. This is absolutely a rogue deck. So if you were expecting to go in top nationals with this, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to think of something else because this is not going to be the deck that likely is going to do it. But this is going to be a very fun deck and one that you are more than welcome, and I would highly encourage you to consider trying out at your locals. I think this is going to be a very cool deck and a very fun one if you are interested in, Tyrannomon, dinosaurs, reptiles, green beatdown decks in general. This is going to be the deck for you. So we're going to go through a quick deck profile, just kind of showing you my rough sample list. Now, as the set comes out, of course, things may be adjusted. I am absolutely going to be building this deck. It's actually the deck I am most looking forward to building newly out of the new set. So we're going to go ahead and get right into it. Now, there's two eggs that I can very much see being good for this deck in particular, and I'm honestly not sure which one I like more yet. I'm going to have to do some testing and actually figure out which one of these I prefer to have more of, but I do think we probably will wind up running a total of 5 eggs, since there's not really, in my opinion, a clear-cut answer. Those two eggs are going to be our Minomon and Pinamon. Now, both of these are Digimon that benefit from attacking into the opponent's Digimon. That's always been Tyrannomon's big gimmick. The original Taiga from BT1 actually gave all of your Tyrannomon piercing. That was one of the big things that it did. So the idea and the goal of the deck was to get big and swing over opponent's Digimon and get security checks off of that. So Minomon is an egg where if you attack an opponent's Digimon, you'll get plus 1000 DP. Then we also have Pinamon, who when attacking an opponent's Digimon, lets you draw a card. I do still think that attacking into the opponent's Digimon is probably one of the better ways to go. Now, there's lots of very viable green eggs, and I could see a lot of them all potentially seeing play, but I foresee that those of you who are looking to build green Tyrannomon, these are probably the two eggs you're going to want to run with. Whatever your ratios wind up being, this is just what I have it currently set to, but I'm going to be doing some testing and will very likely change my actual physical list once I've had the chance to play some games. Now we're going to go ahead and get into the rookies. We'll start off with the brand new rookie. This is Agumon from BT11. Now this Agumon has an on-play effect to reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. You can add any tamer from among them to your hand and place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. This is very much a green tamer-centric deck, which is pretty unique. Not too many green decks have done that outside of course, green hybrid. But we are going to be playing 2 different versions of Taiga, as well as some memory setters, and finding those tamers will be important if we want to get our main game plan through. So being able to have a tamer tutor is definitely going to be helpful. And the inheritable is while you have a tamer in play, you get a bonus 2000 DP. That's a big number. As you guys can already tell, the whole thing with Tyrannomon has always been big DP boosts, and this deck is still continuing on with that theme. Now, for the rest of the rookies, these are where we're going to see a lot of variability from different Tyrannomon lists. These are the rookies that I am going to be running in my list, at least to begin. We are going to be playing 4 copies of Betamon from BT7. This Betamon has a very similar on-play to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You can add any green level 4 Digimon or a green tamer from among them to your hand, and then of course the rest go to the bottom in any order. So it doesn't have an inheritable, so basically in between this and Agumon, you are trading that inheritable for an on-play that will also be able to potentially add a level 4 to your hand. So there is at least some trade-off there. Betamon is a pretty solid tutor. I definitely think it does have a home in this deck. Whether or not it's worth running at 4 copies, we will have to wait and see, but you know, it does have this beautiful alternate art, and who doesn't love that, right? The other rookie that I am currently planning on running is Palmon from the green structure deck. Now this Palmon has an inheritable similar to that of Agumon, where if you attack into an opponent's Digimon, you then gain 2000 DP. There are a lot of green cards, a surprising number actually, that gain 2000 DP from the rookie slot. This Palmon happened again to give that bonus 2k, which will make swinging over an opponent's Digimon much easier. There's other cards like BT1 Green Agumon that just give a generic plus 1000 DP, which might make swinging into security a little bit safer. So again, there's lots of other rookies to be considered. I've also thought about playing things like Tyrannomon from EX2, which has an if opponent's Digimon is suspended, then you can gain 2000 DP. It also has some tamer synergy. So there's lots of rookies you can consider, but these 12 are what I'm going to be starting off with. Now, very similar to my Aegistramon list, we are actually playing more champions than rookies in this list, so we're going to go ahead and get into those. To begin with, we have 4 copies of Tyrannomon, again, from BT1 or BT2, whichever one it was. The English release was kind of wonky, but this Tyrannomon is 4 to play and has 4000 DP, so you can actually play it from your hand for a pretty inexpensive cost, but you really want that when digivolving effect. Reveal 3 cards from the top of your deck. You can then add a level 5 Digimon card and a green tamer card from among them to your hand. Then you place the remaining on the bottom of your deck. So again, fitting with the tutors from our level 4 slots, this again is going to let us check cards from the top of our deck and potentially lets us add 2 different cards. If we can see one of our ultimates and a tamer, we'll get to add both of them. So card advantage is always welcome. Next up is going to be the promo Tyrannomon from one of the event packs. Now this Tyrannomon is kind of neat. It's actually pretty cool for a level 4. We don't see too many cards like this these days. It's 5 to play, has 4000 DP, but on your turn while it's in play, it also gains an additional 3000 DP, making this a 7k beat stick. Super nice for some relatively safe security checks early on in the game, and if you were to combine this with Minomon and Palmon or Agumon, you are already looking at a 10,000 DP champion level Digimon, which I think is absolutely wild. Super cool there. And it does also have that nice inheritable where if this Digimon is level 6 or higher, again, plus 2000 DP. So all of these DP gains start to stack up very quickly. Next up is going to be the new Tyrannomon from BT11. So over the years, we've gotten lots of Tyrannomon support from different sets. A lot of it has been red and green up until this point and has kind of played in both directions, and this card is no exception. Should you decide to build a fully red Tyrannomon list, I think you are probably going to be capable of doing that, but I do think there is a little bit more merit to playing green with this new support. So this Tyrannomon is 5 to play, 5000 DP, and 3 to digivolve, which is a little steep, but it makes up for that with its on-play / when digivolving effect, which lets you play any tamer card with a play cost 3 or less from your hand without paying its memory cost. So even though you are paying 3 to digivolve, you will already get potentially a free tamer into play just by going up into this. Being able to play this for 5 is also not terrible. It means you can pass your opponent usually not too much memory. A memory setter alone means you would only be passing them 2 if you happen to play this, so definitely not bad. And it shares that inheritable with the Agumon, where if you have a tamer in play, your Digimon gets plus 2000 DP again. Very redundant. You'll notice a lot of 2000 DP gain effects, which very happy to see. Moving on, we are going to be playing 3 copies of EX1 Tyrannomon. Now this Tyrannomon is red, but is able to digivolve from a green Digimon, and on your turn is treated as green while in play. However, this is not able to be added off of Betamon, so do make sure you keep that in mind. It is not considered green if you check it with Betamon, but while it's in play, you can digivolve onto it as a green Digimon. So this Tyrannomon has a when Digivolving effect. If you do not have a Taiga in play, you can then play one from your hand again without paying its memory cost. So one of the best, honestly, early turn Digivolutions that you can get. If you're able to push forward or just hard play something, pass turn by Digivolving into this, play a Tamer for free, that's a pretty solid start. So it's definitely a good start to the game plan this deck wants to be pushing. And it again has that nice inheritable, plus 2000 DP, as long as the Digimon has Tyrannomon in its name, which, spoiler alert, everything above our rookie line does have Tyrannomon in the name. Now that's going to do it for our champions. We are playing a total of, I believe, 14. So we got 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep, 14 champions. So since some of these are able to be hard played, like our BT11 Tyrannomon, we can always potentially hard play our promo, or I guess BT2 Tyrannomon for only a cost of 4. I did go ahead and just include a few more of those because the rookie line is definitely going to be valuable. But we're going to go ahead and move up into our ultimates. Now we have 2 ultimates that we're playing full 4 copies of in this particular list. Again, I've seen some other Tyrannomon lists floating around that play some other cool cards like Rapidmons, but this is what I will be playing in my current Tyrannomon list. We are maxing out on the 2, in my opinion, best Tyrannomon options in the level 5 slot. To begin with, we have the brand new Metal Tyrannomon from BT11. Now this bad boy is 8 to play, 8000 DP, and 4 to Digivolve. A little bit steep on the Digivolution cost, but it is for a good reason. This Digimon has an on-play and when Digivolving effect. For each green and or black Tamer in play, you can suspend one of your opponent's Digimon, then one of your opponent's suspended Digimon does not unsuspend during your opponent's neck unsuspend phase. So basically, if you have a lineup of Tamers, you can then suspend down your opponent's entire board. Since we are talking about all of these effects that let us get bigger as we're swinging into Digimon, this is going to be one of the biggest and best enablers for that ability. So this Metal Tyrannomon is phenomenal. Super, super good. It also has a really cool alternatives effect where once per turn, when this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, trash the top card of their security stack. This is going to be a wonderful buff for Machinedramon. Obviously, most of you know Machinedramon is my primary pet deck, but in a Tyrannomon dedicated list where you are swinging into opponent's Digimon all the time, this card is super, super cool. This is going to be a very powerful tech card for the deck. And then we also have Master Tyrannomon from BT8. Now, Master Tyrannomon is going to be one of our biggest sources of aggression. This Master Tyrannomon is again 8 to play, 8000 DP, and 4 to Digivolve. Has a your turn effect. All of your Digimon with Tyrannomon in their name, including himself, gain security attack +1. Combine that with piercing and all of those DP buffs, and we are going to be swinging for a lot of security checks very quickly and very, very aggressively. We have the chance to be very aggressive early on in the game, which is super, super nice. And adding on to that, we even have a generic inheritable for a security attack +1. So if we go up into our megas, we get to keep that nice security attack +1. So Master Tyrannomon, again, very, very nice. Now we'll move up into our megas. Now I'm playing 5 currently. Again, this is my particular list at this moment, but that may change. First, we need to talk about a boy who is so far past what may have been his prime, but I actually genuinely believe is deserving of a spot in this deck. So this is the original BT2 Rust Tyrannomon. Now, this Tyrannomon just got a really cool alt art spoiled in one of the upcoming sets, and while this card may not be as strong, in my opinion, as the newest Rust Tyrannomon, this card does have some very spicy uses, and I actually do think, again, it is deserving of a slot. So we're going to talk about this guy. So he's 13 to play, 11,000 DP, and 4 to Digivolve. Not great stats right off the bat, and I recognize that. He's not the best card in the world. Let's just call a spade here. He's not the best. Those are very early Digimon kind of stats. They're not pushed. But with this shell, we need to talk about how his effects work, because his effects are very solid. On your turn, when you have a green Tamer in play, you can then use this to attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon. So that is going to give you access to all of those attacking opponent's Digimon procs, whether it be your inheritables or what have you, that this deck really wants to make use of and abuse. So Rust Tyrannomon, in this case, can actually get those at any time. You don't have to worry about suspending down your opponent's Digimon first. I can see this absolutely being a solid tech card that can snipe a stack your opponent is trying to leave unsuspended and protected. It also has a your turn effect, where if this Digimon deletes one of your opponent's Digimon in battle and survives, you can then suspend down another of your opponent's Digimon. So the idea here is, whether they have a blocker or whatever the case is. If they have more than one Digimon in play and you have more than one attacker, you can use this guy to clear something problematic, suspend another card down, and then swing into that with your other copies of Tyrannomon. So very, very cool. It's a nice little board control card. It does require a little bit of setup, but I think this card, I'm going to probably try it out at least as a one-of as when this deck first hits the meta. So I'm going to give that a run. We're trying to get back into live streams, and you better believe we'll be seeing this deck on live stream once we get those running again. But the other card we definitely want to talk a little bit more about is the brand new Rust Tyrannomon from BT11. This is one of the best curved hoppers that the deck has available to it. It's very, very powerful. So it's going to have 13 to play, 13,000 DP, so a bit better than the original. It is 5 to Digivolve. However, for each of your green and black tamers in play, you can also reduce the Digivolution cost to go into this card. So if you have 2 tamers in play, he already costs 2 less, which makes him only 3, which is a pretty good standard if you're talking about mega level Digivolutions. So Rust Tyrannomon here, he comes down pretty cheap and is very powerful. Got a nice chunky 13,000 DP to begin with. He also has an all turns effect where if this deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, you can unsuspend it. So this synergizes really well with the tamers we're going to be talking about in a minute, where first of all, you can get into him very easily. For very cheap, if not free. You can then ideally swing into something that has been suspended. If you have piercing, that you'll then do security checks, potentially extra with Master Tyrannomon, or just trashing security with our Metal Tyrannomon. Then you can unsuspend and hit something all over again, whether that's another Digimon or just swinging into security a second time. So this Rust Tyrannomon is pretty much going to be the facilitator for your biggest top-end plays, although there may even be an argument made for maybe cutting some copies of these and adding more of this Rust Tyrannomon. I honestly don't know, guys. That's honestly why I'm most excited for this deck. I love it when old cards can finally see some viability in new shells, and this deck is definitely a deck for that. As far as options, I am playing 2. I'm going to be playing 2 copies of Needle Spray here. So Needle Spray is 2 to play, and it just basically lets you suspend an opponent's Digimon. So it's a very cheap effect that makes your opponent's board vulnerable, which is obviously helpful. It does have a security effect where you can activate this card's main effect and add it to your hand. So if they check it in security, not only do you get to spend an opponent's Digimon, you then get to add this to your hand for use later on. There could be some arguments for maybe playing some copies of like memory boosts in this slot. I don't think that's unreasonable at all, but I definitely think having options to suspend opponent's Digimon is going to be important, especially if we are leaning into the piercing, attack opponent's Digimon kind of inheritables. That's pretty much it for that. We are going to be talking about our tamers. I'm currently playing a total of 9. As I mentioned, this is a tamer-heavy deck just because our top-end Rust Tyrannomon really benefits from it, and we have a lot of effects in this deck that benefit from having tamers in play as well. We'll start with our new Taiga from BT11. This Taiga has an effect. It is 3 to play, so it can be cheated in out of the new BT11 Tyrannomon. On your turn, all of your Digimon get another plus 1,000 DP, so more DP buffs. And when one of your green Digimon would Digivolve into a level 5 or higher Digimon card, you may suspend this tamer to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. So this Taiga is basically going to help us go into our, for instance, Metal Tyrannomons or Master Tyrannomons without having to pass turn. And our other copy of Taiga has a very similar effect, where when digivolving one of your Digimon into a Digimon card with Tyrannomon in its name, again, you may suspend this tamer to reduce the Digivolution cost by 1. Now this Taiga, rather than boosting our DP, this is where our piercing is going to come from. All of your Digimon with Tyrannomon in their name gain piercing at all times while this card is in play. Now, as important and valuable as piercing is, I do think if you're going to be running a total of 7 Taigas, as in you're not running 4 of each, I would probably run 4 of the new Taiga for the DP buff, because that does stack, and 3 copies of this Taiga for piercing. Just because even though the Digivolution reduction is of course nice, the piercing obviously is not going to stack if you have multiples in play. So I do think this Taiga will be a little more valuable for us, but who knows. This Taiga is still plenty strong, and you're still going to want to see at least 1 copy each game. The last tamer I'm going to be playing are copies of Ken Ichijoji from BT3. He is going to be my personal memory setter of choice. Of course, start of turn, set your memory to 3, but he has an effect on your turn where if one of your green or blue Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, you can suspend this tamer to gain memory. So, still feeding into that idea where we are trying to attack into our opponent's Digimon. As usual, there are plenty of green tamers that are perfectly usable. Mimi, the original BT1 or BT2 Mimi, is very serviceable in this deck, since we're going to be getting up into our 5s and 6s pretty consistently, I think. But yeah, this is going to be my personal choice to begin with. Again, this is kind of a starting point. I'd really like to see how this deck does. I think it's going to be, again, a ton of fun. And yeah, this is going to be the deck that I am most looking forward to adding to my collection once BT11 does drop. But yeah, with that, guys, that's going to do it for this deck profile. Thank you all for joining me once again. If you guys are still enjoying the content, please feel free to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. I want to know what kind of fun, spicy tech choices you guys are coming up with for your Tyrannomon lists. Green Tyrannomon is definitely a fan favorite. This deck will definitely have some dedicated players, and I will absolutely be one of them. But yeah, that's going to about do it, guys. I am an avid herpetologist. I hope you all have a great rest of your night, and I will see you all next time.